Today on Nerdvana, we are talking with Ryan Spence of Ultimate Customs. Ryan has the coolest job ever. He creates modern-day pieces of art using fully functioning gaming consoles. He'll take a boring old NES and customize it to your liking, adding LED lights, music, and amazing artwork. He's made NESs out of toasters, model replica Back to the Future DeLoreans, and my personal favorite, the Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters.
You left out one of the most important parts. He also takes the controllers and completely customizes them from the ground up. He takes them out of the housing and replaces them with a custom housing he makes, adds LED lights and anything you desire into these controllers. They are fantastic pieces of art. Check out the Legend of Zelda one. If I had to pick a favorite, I think that'd be it.
Just last month, Ryan created a giant NES controller/system.
And another fun perk, it triples as a coffee table. The cartridge loader is towards the rear of the table and the buttons are fully functional.
It's honestly the coolest thing I've ever seen. You can check him out on Facebook at facebook.com/TheRealUltimateCustoms. Ryan, let's just jump right into the questions. What is your favorite piece that you've done?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, truth be told, I see nothing but flaws in many of the things I do, and it's a big difference between people who are looking at it versus myself. Everything I do, I kind of have disdain for in a way, because all I see is things that could have been better, and so that makes it hard. I guess if I truly had to pick one overall, it would probably either be the Ghostbusters trap was one for sure, because it was so different and unique. But at the same time, it might be something, even more basic than that, like the Double Dragon Nintendo or one of the Mike Tyson Punch-Out Nintendos.
I mean, the Ghostbuster Trap one is definitely one of my favorite ones. You just, take an item that you see and you're just like, I want to make this into an NES, or, because I love the DeLorean, the Ecto-1's an awesome one. The Ninja Turtles van. Those are three of my favorite ones for sure. Do you just look at these items and then just think, I can make this into an NES?
Yeah, that's exactly the process. It's become to a point where I'm constantly looking. Everything I'm watching, everything, when I'm walking through the store, it becomes you set these bars for yourself, and you start to be like, all right, is it possible to take a DeLorean toy and turn that into a Nintendo? Can I build a ghost trap? So it's always about finding that next challenge, but it's also about constantly just thinking about retro things, movie things, video game items. What can I take and actually turn into a Nintendo? So it's a never-ending process of trying to find the next idea.
I actually have a question about your choice of consoles. You mainly focus on the NES, right?
Correct, yes.
Now, do you have any plans for working on disc-based systems like the Dreamcast or the GameCube? Because I'm a big GameCube kid, so...
Yeah, I've done a handful of 360s, and, I've done, I think, one or two Sega Saturns, Nothing, compared to some of the other guys that do it as well, who really focus on, the disc-based drives and all that stuff. So I've done it, I've gone as modern as the 360, which is pretty outdated at this point. And I don't know, for me, there's more of, a charm, I guess, in the retro systems and the old stuff. And it's something that, where you can buy all sorts of skins and all this other stuff for, all the modern systems, and you can almost decorate them any way you want anymore. But with the older stuff, it's not quite as widely available, and it's also a simpler, electronical scheme you're working with. So,
Absolutely.
Whereas modern systems, there's so many different components that are wired in now, and it makes it so complicated. Whereas take something that was really simple technology like the NES, for instance, you really can get as crazy as you want to get with it, because things are much easier to access. We're not talking about a gazillion microprocessors.
It's just literally one board, right?
Yes, exactly. It's one board with a power supply, and so with that, simplicity also gives you a lot of leeway to do some pretty advanced things with it.
What is the process of creating one of these machines? Do you get an order and then create it, or you just create it yourself and then go on selling it?
It's a mix of both. I'd say, generally probably about 80 or 70 to 80% of the projects I do are my own ideas. They're just, stuff that either I'm like, this is so cool, I got to see this through, or, just an idea that somebody, tosses my way in discussion or on, one of my social media accounts, what have you. But the other, 30%, 20% is orders that are placed directly with me. So, someone comes to me with an idea, and this is what they want to do with it and how they want it to look. So it's a split, but it's heavier on my end than an order end.
Speaking of that, I have an idea for you.
Sure. What do you got?
Feel free to take this.
He was discussing this with me earlier today, and I was like, Justin, don't ask him.
Okay, it is an Optimus Prime NES/SNES. So robot mode will be the NES, and then the car mode will be the Super Nintendo.
Right.
I don't know anything on how this would be done, but feel free to take it.
But it's a starting point, and that's where you need to start. I don't know if it's actually obtainable, but it's definitely something to consider.
I actually have a little Shovel Knight amiibo with me today, and I was thinking, if you ever get to doing stuff as complicated as like the Wii U, for instance,
Sure.
I would love to see a Shovel Knight Wii U at some point. Just the gamepad's the shovel.
Yep, that would be perfect. Yeah, I'll definitely keep that one on the back burner as well.
It's like 40 years later. It's like, what was that?
That's probably about what we're looking at.
I just saw the NES coffee table / console / controller.
Yep.
That is just the greatest thing ever. Like, how and why and.
So I can only take, only a handful of credit for the concept because there's other people that have done it, and blowing up a controller. So the idea is not purely mine, but I try to at least every time, if I do somewhat of an unoriginal idea, something that I didn't completely come up with, if I borrow somebody's concept, I always try to take it and do something different with it, so at least it's just not me spitting out something, some other guy spent.
I mean, I've seen the giant NES controller coffee table, but it was just the controller.
Yes.
Like when I saw yours, it's the console, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's much more practical.
That was it. So that was the challenge, building the controller, is a challenge in itself. Figuring out, all right, how do I take this tiny controller and how do I execute the same concepts and logistics on a scale of, times almost 10 or 12. So those have challenges, but then, putting the console in and not just that, having it be a wireless broadcast to the TV. So you're no longer, playing with analog cables. You can actually take this controller anywhere in a room and play it directly to your TV. So, those are the challenges in it, and those are the things you have to figure out. So that's kind of part of the process of building this thing is putting all these things together and figuring out how they're all going to work. But it basically just grew off of seeing one of the coffee tables that somebody had done and being like, oh, that's awesome as a controller. Is it possible then to make it a controller and a video game console? So that's kind of how the idea grew and came to be.
Now, how many hours does something like that take? 'Cause that is just...
Gosh, so
how many times have you shaved in between?
It's not a fun process. It's painful. It's things constantly going wrong, and you can't figure out why. And especially once you start wiring, so many electronics together, and you're getting more and more complex with wiring, and all that stuff. It becomes something of a nightmare when things go wrong. But it's probably anywhere from that's probably about a month and a half to build the controller. Whereas, something maybe a little simpler, like, just a stock Nintendo, it's got some lights in it and stuff, can usually get through that in about a week.
That's okay. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's not a terribly long process. I mean, can only go so fast at different steps, with paint and everything drying and, all the different steps. But, it can range, but generally about a week to do something pretty simple. But anything specialized, it can be a month, 2 months. I've had to take almost 3.
How did you get into this? Like, how did you break into this? Like, did you just wake up one day and be like, okay, I think I want to do this?
So many people ask me that question, because, when I go places with my wife and, you get the question, oh, what do you do for a living? It becomes very tricky, to explain to people exactly what I do for a living without getting the most bizarre looks from people, trying to understand, what exactly it is I do without seeing it. But it was really all just sort of an accident in a way. I had a real world job. I was working 9 to 5, working for Amazon.com. Very very normal job, and it just kind of started one night when I was looking to buy myself to repurchase a Nintendo for some reason. I guess I no longer had my childhood one. I think I was looking to buy one and just to play it. And in doing so, I started to see, other custom Nintendos, people who had, made these products already and were, painting them and putting decals on them and stuff like that. And I was like, man, but that can't be that hard. So I was like, I should try this. And it absolutely was almost impossible the first time, so I couldn't have been more wrong. I jumped in being like, oh, this is easy. This can't be that hard. But so you make one, and it's ugly as sin. It is the worst thing I'd ever seen. I against my better judgment, I put the thing on eBay, and somebody bought it, and I truthfully should probably go apologize to them because the system that they own today, I think it was a Hulk Rules Nintendo. It's just atrocious, but that's how you start, and that's really where something like this grows from. Is you get into it, basically accepting you're probably going to suck, and you do suck, but you have to stick with it. And that's basically how it started. Is I just stuck with it after that. I kept being like, I wonder if I could do this differently, or could I do this a little better next time? And that's basically how it started steamrolling in this direction to where it is now.
I think that's an artist thing. It's got to be a complete artist thing, because whenever I hear myself on the radio, I cringe.
Oh,
it's just like, oh God. Oh, it's a wonder I can listen to this show.
Do you have any famous clients? Because I know this professional wrestler. You post a lot of cool wrestling custom NES things. There's this guy, Zack Ryder, who's like he's a huge Ghostbusters fan, Ninja Turtles fan. Like, has he seen any of your work? Because I think he'd be all over that.
I've actually tagged Zack Ryder in the past, but he's never either seen it or actually followed through on checking it out. But to answer your question, yes, I've actually had pretty amazing opportunities in doing this, and people that have reached out and had stuff done, and I've done stuff for Hulk Hogan.
Really?
I've done it. Sublime, the new version of Sublime, not the old cool version.
Oh, wow.
Sublime with Rome. So they're not as cool, so it's one of the ones that's lower on the list. But who else? Like a lot of underground hip-hop artists that for some reason, this thing I do has really found a niche there. So in that tying together of that, the underground hip-hop scene, I've done work with a ton of those guys, like Everlast from the House of Pain, Method Man.
Wow. That's awesome.
There's been quite a few over the years. Nobody they'll really blow your mind. Basically the kind of people that you would assume would be interested in something like this. So
Hulk Hogan blows my mind.
Yeah.
What did he get?
It's the Hulk Rules one. I think they have it down at his beach shop or whatever his merchandise shop is. So I think they have it on display down there. I don't know exactly what he did with it, but yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Now, are you a big wrestling fan, or just like the 1980s stuff you're into?
Primarily the 80s. I somewhat loosely keep up on the modern day, but I certainly don't watch it with the vigor that I did as a kid.
No, it's not the same as the good old 1980s when they just did a whole bunch of steroids and whatnot.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Nothing beats that.
Charm.
Yeah.
They're the most unnatural human beings on the planet.
Exactly right.
Now, while we're talking about big people getting to see your work, has Mike Tyson ever seen the Punch-Out NES that you had?
No, I don't believe so.
I think that would be amazing. Like, if there's some way... Okay, every listener out there, I want you to start, like, a Patreon page to see if we can get the Punch-Out NES to Mike Tyson.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, my goal is to get Zack Ryder to see your work, because he needs to.
I'm all for that. Yeah, that would be awesome. Because I have tried to tag him before, because I know, enough about him to know that it's a perfect crossroads of two things that he's pretty passionate about. So,
absolutely.
But it's never come to pass.
Now, I heard that Punch-Out was your favorite game, right?
That's correct.
I've been singing Punch-Out's praises since this show started, so
yep,
people are probably sick of me talking about it. But why is it your favorite game?
I don't know. I don't know. It's almost boringly redundant, but at the same time, there's just there's just the different characters, and there's just something about the game that, even though it is so redundant, it's still so replayable.
Right.
And it presents, some honest challenges no matter how many times you play it. There's certain games that you can just blow through no matter, how many times you play them. But with Punch-Out, I can still go back and, play it. It's almost been, 20-something years since I started playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and I can still lose to, Tyson in the final fight. I can still get knocked out by Ball Bull in the heart.
Oh, that's where I'm stuck.
So there's just certain things about it that still present challenges all the time later. So it still has some playability to it in that regard. So I think that's part of why I'm still so passionate about it.
Oh, it's such a fun game. It's way too fun for its own good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, you mentioned you've been playing it for 20-something years. Have you ever beaten it?
Yes, I have.
You beat Mike Tyson?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh my God! Teach me.
That gets a round of applause here.
I have beat him on a number of occasions, but yeah, it's on the giant controller, no chance. There's no way you're beating Mike Tyson on that thing, because that was one of the first things I tried. I was playing Punch-Out when I built that thing, and I was like, holy smokes, it's impossible. So
is that your proudest gaming achievement, or what's the hardest game you've beaten? Is it that?
I would say so. Yeah, when I finally did it, I think for the first time I was probably it took me till I was about 16 or 17 to finally actually sit down and actually learn what I had to do to beat it without getting incredibly frustrated and walking away. So, yeah, there was a lot of years and tears put into accomplishing that for sure.
I went to Mike Tyson straight through the password, and I lasted exactly 4 seconds.
Yeah, that's probably about as long as those people do last, to be honest.
It was atrocious. Wow. Like, what were they thinking making a game that difficult?
I don't know, but it's definitely endured because of that.
Oh.
Now, that's something that's so great about the NES games. They were difficult, but then, like you said, you came back to play them. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the most infamous hard games on the NES, we've talked about it here on Nerdvana a bunch of times, is Battletoads. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we just heard them.
I love Battletoads. I actually did a Battletoads Nintendo, some time back, and it was just, I was absolutely disgusted with myself the entire time. I absolutely loathed that game. There was no pleasure in playing that game. It was a complete exercise in utter frustration, and it was like you basically paid back then like $35, which was quite a bit of money for the privilege of having this worthless game that you can do nothing with. So, I don't like talking about Battletoads. It makes me feeling a little anxious.
Yeah, I just played Battletoads for the first time the other day, and I got
it didn't go well.
I got past level 1 after 2 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty much the story of Battletoads right there.
It was astronomically difficult.
Now, you mentioned to me off the air that your kids were sleeping right now, so you had a little bit of a break. Now, are you just like the coolest dad of all time, or do your kids just
it's definitely one of those things that my one son's too young to understand, but my one son's getting older. Definitely kind of looks around and realizes that I have this office full of toys basically that that I work with in our house. So yeah, I think as he gets older, he may think it's pretty cool, he may not, who knows, but my UPS guy thinks it's fascinating. Anybody who drops stuff off at my house, they all basically come to my office door and drop everything off, and they look inside, and many of them, especially the younger guys, can't help but ask, what are you doing here? So, it's interesting. But yeah, the little guys are fans. Hopefully.
Career Day is going to be fantastic.
Oh, I know. Yeah, that'll be great. I'll be in there with all the other parents who have normal jobs, and then me.
Just like 6 Nintendos. Just, yep, this is what I do.
Yeah. What?
Oh, man, that's awesome.
I actually just came up with another idea. Feel free to take it.
Oh, no.
I don't know if you've done this. Okay, so it's a Batmobile as the system, and then a Batarang as the controller.
That would be cool.
That's actually awesome.
Yeah, I thought about doing a Batmobile. Somebody had pitched me the Batmobile a while ago. They're like, you should do one of the new Batmobiles. One of the problems that you run into with stuff like that is if there's any kind of generational gap where things don't totally make sense, people just don't like it. They don't want anything to do with it. So if I, and that was part of the problem is finding, some of the period accurate stuff to use for the Batmobile and everything like that. So you have all the new toys there, the new Batmobile. If I could use that, but if it doesn't make sense, why is this game system from the 80s and this, modern day toy?
Yeah.
People just want nothing to do with it. So, because I've tried different stuff, I've tried modernizing some of it, and it just, for whatever reason, it just does not seem to fly.
Now, this is completely off topic, has nothing to do with video games, but what is you do a lot of cool movie-themed ones. Do you have a favorite movie of all time? I know that's such a hard question, but I always love finding out what people really enjoy.
Yeah.
It's
so
such a hard question.
It is, but it's so hard.
You could give a few answers, top 3.
Okay. All right, so Caddyshack
Classic.
would be up there. Probably Monty Python and the Holy Grail would be
Yes!
2. As a third, huh? Oh, boy. that's a tough one.
Any action movies that come to mind?
No, I'm not huge into action movies. I can't even think of number 3. Maybe something more classic like The Godfather or something.
All right.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a diverse group right there.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of your bigger scrapped ideas?
I got one of the best that never made it and crushed me, and I cried for hours, basically burning this thing in my backyard.
Oh no!
It was the Nintendo phone, and it was a Nintendo, but the first port had a controller that went into it, so it looked like a controller was already hooked up, but the controller was the headset for the telephone. So you'd pick up the controller, and it would ring. It would ring like a phone. It just operated as a Nintendo as well, and it had the buttons on the top. So you could call somebody from your Nintendo.
Wow,
and
that's
it just,
awesome.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was going to be the greatest thing of all time. And it probably wasn't going to be, but I was so driven on this thing. I was like, I'm going to make this telephone, and it's going to be awesome. It's the greatest thing ever. And I just could not execute it. It just was not working out. Things kept breaking, and it was just not working out. So I ended up having to scrap that one, which was disappointing because I was probably about 2 months into it at that point.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, a lot of time lost there. And there's not a ton of necessarily scrapped ideas, but certain ones that have taken almost 5 or 6 tries to get right. Like the Paperboy Nintendo, I just did that. I think was my 3rd try on that one. So I basically trashed 2 Nintendos on the quest to finishing that one. So there's a long, large graveyard of victims of that circumstance.
Oh, man. I was actually going to ask, does your mailman ever get concerned that you have 4 or 5 Nintendos coming in a week?
No, he's an interesting guy, my mailman. He sings the whole time that he delivers the mail. He wears his earphones and he sings and stops his lungs walking up and down my street.
That's
so
awesome.
As far as his world goes, that's probably pretty normal.
That's pretty cool, man. Now, I was back to the Punch-Out Wii the Punch-Out nest that you made. I would really, really love to see the Punch-Out with the boxing ring on top of the nest and a boxing glove as the controller, like an 8-bit
awesome.
glove.
That would be awesome. That's a good idea.
Now,
Just
how do
giving
you
you these ideas.
Yeah. Now, how do you make the custom controllers? Do you just modify the original controller, or do you make custom housings?
Basically custom housing. So I scrap everything but the circuit board and obviously the cord and the buttons and the little rubber pad. So I keep the guts. I use a portion of the controller to help map where the buttons go on the customized controller. So
that's
I'll
cool.
keep certain parts of it, but it's just a shell of its former self at that point. But yeah, so at that point, it's done with acrylics and cutting and fitting, and, basically coming up with the design, making sure it's something that'll actually fit the controller inside of it, because you have to be aware of the existing size of the circuit board and stuff to be able to fit it into, a logo or whatever the case is. So yeah, but that's pretty much the process. You just come up with an idea, make sure that it works, and start cutting.
Yeah, I saw that The Legend of Zelda one where you made it out of the whole Triforce, and I
Yeah.
just I want that as like something that hangs off my belt, you know, like just something. Oh man,
Yeah.
it was cool. I would never play it ever. I'd be
No.
too worried about ruining it.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest. That's one of the biggest, negative comments people give me on the custom controllers is it looks so uncomfortable to hold. It's like, yeah, I guess you're right. I hadn't thought about that. I'm not really designing it for you to sit and play for 10 hours.
Right.
It's designed so you have this console that no one else on the planet has, basically, and you got this crazy controller that goes with it. And it's just one of those things that for some reason people love to point out how uncomfortable they all look, but they're actually not that bad. But I wouldn't want to sit and play with them for 10 hours either.
Right. Especially the Zelda one, because I'm just thinking of like the sides of it digging into my hands. Like, oh no.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you don't want to commit yourself to a long gaming experience with one of the
We'll
companies.
just have it plugged into player 2 and just play with the regular one.
Yeah.
Oh,
What do
man.
you have up and coming? What are you working on right now?
The controller was the big one. I basically had been pushing towards that. So right now I'm working on just a lot of custom orders for people. Ones that have already been seen, like the WWF logo, Nintendo.
Yeah, I love that.
And like the Goonies. I'm making a Goonies one for a guy. So just a lot of recycled ideas, but that's a lot of how the commission process usually works. People want something they've already seen. For a lot of people, that vision doesn't come as naturally as it does to others. So, people just want to go with something they've already seen rather than, try and change it in any way.
But wow, hold on, I had a question. I had one. It's just oh boy, Justin, help me. Oh wait, I do. I remember. Okay,
Do it.
So back on the topic of the coffee table nest.
Yes.
Are you planning on making a Super NES one? Because people would lose their minds over that.
That's true. Yeah, I actually hadn't thought of that. That's actually a really good idea. Yeah, that would be interesting. That's something I could totally do too. Interesting. I'll get back to you on that.
And just like foot pedals for the LNR.
Yeah. There's no finder's fee though, so don't get your hopes up. I basically take it and run.
No, do it. Now Colton calls it the NES and the SNES. What do you call it? Because whenever he says SNES and NES, I want to punch him in the face.
Yeah, I can understand that. I know with the letters themselves, NES and SNES.
Oh,
Okay,
so just
there
leave.
It's a lot of work on the SE and SN, but it sounds better than SNES. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I cycle between the two. I'm trying. I promise you, I'm trying.
Yeah. The letters are the way to go.
I came from the end of the Super NES era, and I was like, I'm N64 is my first system, so.
Right. Oh, wow. Yeah.
But it's ridiculous. Well, he calls it out every time I do it. It's just like, listen, man. Thank you so much for doing
Hell
this.
yeah. This
Absolutely,
was awesome,
guys.
dude.
I appreciate you having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
I more than likely will be placing an order soon because, my God, dude.
Glad to hear it.
Yeah, how much is how much does the system go for? How much is the WWF one going for?
I think I usually match what it sold for the first time. So if it goes on eBay, I match the price. It was probably like 300, something like that. So
That's not terrible.
In that ballpark, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let
I
me
want
know
to
if
get
you're
one of those
interested.
coffee
Yeah.
tables.
Great.
Yeah.
No, I am not going to be emotionally ready for that project for at least another 2 or 3 years. Because I already have people messaging me about it. So like, if I don't win it, can you make it? I was like, no, I don't ever want to talk about it again.
This is a one-time deal. Go away.
That's right.
And where can we actually find you? I know you're on Facebook.com/TheRealUltimateCustoms. And you have an Instagram account?
Yeah, I do. It's at ultimate_customs.
Okay, perfect.
Awesome. And that was just an awesome interview right there with Ryan Spence of Ultimate Customs.
Yo, he was so cool to talk to.
He was awesome. And you know what? We're going to let a little cat out of the bag, if you will.
No, don't let him out. Oh, yeah, that was an interview we pre-recorded. We did that not long ago. That was like 2 days ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was about 2 days ago. And he was such a cool guy to talk to. And you wanted to say something.
This is why
This
we're
is
telling
why
you this.
we're telling you this.
Well, literally right after we did the interview, I was like, this guy's awesome. I want to buy something from him right now. So I contacted him on Facebook right after, thanking him for the interview. And I said, yo, Ryan, we need to make me a Transformers NES right now. What can we do? And he seemed thrilled about it. He's yet to do a Transformers one. So in around 7 weeks from now, I shall be receiving my